What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Nex from Game of Theories, and it's finally time for my episode 2 Stormborn breakdown and analysis. Well, I say that, but just like I did with the San Diego Comic-Con trailer, I'm gonna do something a little bit different, and rather than just pour through the same material as every other video you've probably already watched by now, I'll come at this with more of a theorized approach. Obviously, there's still lots of points I want to share with you guys, but I also want to go through some of the major theories that were confirmed in this episode, and there were at least 4 pretty big ones. Let's start by talking about Euron. I honestly can't express just how satisfying it is to see so many people finally realizing that this guy is going to be the real deal. How do you even begin analyzing that sea battle? If it wasn't his insanely awesome entrance, it was his constant bloodthirsty, wild thrashing around in battle and grinning like a maniac throughout that truly had me watching it in awe. It's interesting to see everyone on the fence about what he's going to do with Yara, but I honestly believe that if he was going to kill her, he would have just done it straight away. He has a game plan, and unfortunately for Yara, it involves her. I think Theon got some pretty harsh treatment following his little Bambi jump into the sea, but what was he really gonna do in that situation? Up until then, I was actually loving him. He was finally proving what he can do when you put a sword in his hand, and I think that he has some more of that fight left in him. Hopefully, Jon and Dany will set him straight, because I don't think I can handle another bout of Reek. Anyway, at the end of the battle, we got a huge payoff that indicates how a vital part of Euron's character from the books should be coming through to the show, which is the fact that Euron is indeed a warlock. Allow me to elaborate. After the fighting is finished, you can see his crew were cutting out the tongues of all the fallen, and even his own crew are mutes. Link this back to the conversation between Balon and Euron on the bridges at Pike.
I heard you lost your mind during a storm on the Jade Sea. Tied you to the mast to keep you from jumping overboard.
They did.
And when the storm passed, you cut out their tongue.
I needed silence.
What kind of an Ironborn loses his senses during a storm?
I am the storm, brother. The first storm and the last. And you're in my way.
He needed silence for a specific reason. It's because he never lost his senses during the storm. He created the storm while testing his newly acquired warlock powers. And afterwards, he made his entire crew swear an oath of silence, which involved cutting out their tongues, hence why his ship and crew are nicknamed the Silence. Fingers crossed that more of Book Euron keeps coming through into the show. Let's move on to the scenes at the capital where Cersei is making plans on how to deal with Daenerys, because there are a couple of important things to talk about here. The first one is the confirmation about Randyll Tarly and his recently recast son Dickon. It has been long speculated about whether the Tarlys will betray the Tyrells, and in all honesty, I think Jaime made a pretty hard sell to him at the end of their scene.
I know you don't like my sister, but you have to make a choice. Do you fight with us, or with foreign savages and eunuchs? When the war is won, the Queen will need a new Warden of the South. I can think of no better man than Randyll Tarly.
The theory wasn't exactly confirmed in stone, but come on, Randyll is not turning away the opportunity to become the new Warden of the South. And that line about fighting alongside savages would have rung some home truths about what just happened between him, Sam and Gilly. The second major talking point was Qyburn's unveiling of the ballista weapon that they're hoping that will take down a dragon or two in the upcoming battles. I actually did a video on ways that Cersei can beat Daenerys, and this was one of them, along with Euron, the Mountain, and a Wildfire round 2. I'll card it at the end. So, the question is, how many of these things are they going to have available in time for their battle? I mean, if this is the only one, then hopefully the dragons watched the Battle of the Bastards episode and learnt a thing or two from Rickon's mistake. On the other hand, if they're bringing like 20 of these weapons to the fight, surely they're taking down at least one dragon. We're going to be heading over to the Citadel next, but I just want to quickly touch base on the scenes over at Camp Daenerys and with the lone wolf Arya Stark. It feels like the council around Daenerys is starting to slowly fall apart. Yara and Ilaria are out, she doesn't really trust Varys, she's been undermining Tyrion at every turn, and now she's listening to Olenna about being a dragon. Talk about appealing to her inner madness. I was getting bored of all these round table scenes, but for once, I'm interested in seeing how Dany reacts to what happened, as it puts a huge dent in their plans. Also, how did they somehow manage to pull off one of the most awkward yet sexiest sex scenes ever? Like, it starts off painfully timid and the level of uncomfortableness just made it unbearable, but then kudos to the scene director for recovering it with some very flattering camera angles. All I really got from this scene is that they were giving context to Grey Worm's death. Let's be honest people, one of the big hitters have got to die soon. On to Arya. I think that a lot of people were left a little bit confused about what happened in the Nymeria scene, but there was only really two things you needed to take from this. To quote Arya, "That's not you, is it?" It's basically her saying that Nymeria coming back with her to Winterfell to be her pet again isn't in her true nature. It's a throwback reference from season 1.
Can I be Lord of the Holdfast?
You will marry a High Lord and rule this castle. And your sons shall be knights and princes and lords.
No. That's not me.
The other side was that this scene was basically setting up for another appearance by Nymeria and the Wolfpack. If I had to guess, it's going to be when things get really dire, perhaps in season 8, and she'll show up with her Wolfpack to either save Arya, or it could be to equalise some of the monsters that the Night King will be bringing with his army. Finally, I'm going to wrap things up at the Citadel. Are we witnessing a reoccurring theme with Sam, where he'll be involved in some grotesque activities mixed in with some slight humour? I guess we'll find out in episode 3. Now then, they are so close to confirming what the exact solution is to Jorah's grayscale, and I know we're all screaming out Dragonglass, but we're still yet to get that definitive payout. However, there was one other insanely popular theory that they just threw a boatload of weight on, which was whether the whole Game of Thrones story is being told from Sam's perspective. The initial basis for this theory spawned from the show's opening credits, finally being linked to the Citadel. It's the place where accounts of historical events are documented and maintained. We see the astrolabe in the Great Hall of the Citadel, and then as the camera's panning around, you can see flashing lenses going past the screen, which is the same device that this man was using for his reading. Many people have speculated whether A Song of Ice and Fire was written by Sam Tarly, and it's being told from his perspective. If you didn't see, the showrunners just gave a huge nod to this theory.
I wanted to ask...
If you're going to write histories, Tarly, you have to do the research. If you want people to read your histories, you need a bit of style. I'm not writing a chronicle of the wars following the death of King Robert I, so it can sit on a shelf unread. What? You don't like the title? What would you call it then?
Possibly something a bit more poetic?
I wasn't a believer of this theory, but I'll level with you guys. That little conversation was so unnecessary and out of context that I'm now a bit sold on the idea of it being true. The line of, I don't know, something poetic, and what's the story called? A Song of Ice and Fire. Poetic enough for you people? Alright guys, thank you so much for checking out the video. Make sure you leave your thoughts on each of the points I made and what your favourite and worst parts of the episode were. I'll be back this weekend with 4 new theories. So until then, 7 blessings to you all, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.